Your state citizenship for U.S. citizenship? Have you gone crazy? Look up Title 18. 18 U.S.C. Section 242. I'm an alien. Oh, they're going to deport you. Let me see. Deprivation of rights under color of law. Whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, or custom willfully subjects any person in a state, territory, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different pains, punishments, or penalties on account of such person being an alien, shall be fined under this title or in prison for not more than 1 year, or both.
Yeah.
Is that what it says?
That's what it says. That's what it says. Do you want to see it, or do you want me to pass it? Yeah, it says that.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Title 5, 552A, in the footnotes. Anybody that deprives anybody of any right, benefit, or privilege on account of failure to disclose the Social Security account number is guilty of a felony. Why do you think Walmart settled?
And you have to give them notice of that.
Sure, otherwise it can assume and presume all sorts of stuff. You have to give notice. It's only fair. Should I be allowed to shoot you because you stepped on my property? No. That's why you get in trouble for it. Post it. No trespassing. Violators may be shot. You get shot in there and see if you can, whether you can stick it. You're not.
We were talking earlier, what if I take my title to my home and give it to the county? Can I still post a private property notice?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing. You need to get a lodial title. But I think you could still post private property, personally. Let them disprove it. I say it's mine. You want to say it belongs to the county? Say it. Can't prove anything. I'm here. I say it's mine. The chess set. We talked about that. Where'd it come from? It came from the rec department there at the prison. So how can I get a $40,000 lien? Because I said it's mine. That's why. Belongs to the government, right? Who's the government? Me. So I figured it's mine. Maybe I'm a little too logical. It sure ain't that dude's. He's nothing but a caretaker of the warehouse. Who's this government? I know, I thought I was. Wouldn't matter anyway. The guy agreed to pay $40,000 for a plastic chess set that I said was mine. That's good enough. You say tomato, I say tomato. It doesn't matter. This being sovereign is going to be an ugly thing for a lot of people, being responsible for themselves. That's why Ben Franklin said it. What have you given us? A republic if you can keep it. And Aldous Huxley in 1932 in Brave New World, in the forward section of that book, in conjunction with the freedom to daydream under the influence of dope and movies and the radio, it will help to reconcile his subjects to the servitude which is their fate.
Yeah.
Your fate is servitude. That's why you got radio, TV, and drugs for you, illegal or otherwise. So you can cope with this servitude that just would drive any normal person crazy. When I got out of the prison, I told the ex, I said, man, I can't do supervised release. Are you kidding? Can't. I'm not built that way. I'm going to sit here and file reports and monthly reports and be told where I can work and this, that, and the other thing. I'm talking to one kid who's thinking about being a student, and he's on supervised release, and he's 50, and he says he's on state supervised release. He can't even move in with his girlfriend. He can't travel out of this area without permission, do that, do this. Everybody's different on their supervised release. I said, man, that's brutal. I said, no kidding. So it's really interesting what goes on with people. I was up at Terminal Island, and one of the guys came to me and said, man, I don't have supervised release. They just called me to R&D and said I have to do it. I said, you ain't got to do it. If you're just not in the thing, you don't have to do it. He said, well, they're telling me they're not going to release me. I says, okay. 3 weeks later, they call him in again. You have to sign these papers. He says, I don't have any supervised release, and I ain't signing them. 3 weeks later, he was due to leave. You know what happened? They let him go. They just seen if they could get him to sign up for it. And one really interesting one is a boy that named Gary something, in for 50 years for a white-collar deal. They offered him a 5-year plea deal. He didn't take it, so they gave him 50 years. Mm. He fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court. He's in about 5 years when the Supreme Court ruled in his favor and vacated the case. Attorneys gave him notice that his case had been vacated. He was all ecstatic, running around telling all of us. I said, what are you still doing here then? He said, well, the attorney said, it's going to take about 30 days. I said, man, I don't know I didn't know that. I said, I don't know, man. If they vacated the case, you should be out of here. I said, I think you got to do something with that. I don't know what. And I didn't at that time. I said, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that notice of vacating the case. But I think you got to do something with it, and I don't know what.
Accept?
Yeah, you should have done a straight acceptance on it for set-off settlement and closure of the account and send it back. But his attorneys at the end of 30 days said, well, wait 60, then 90, then, well, after 180 days, then 180, he got transferred to another prison. When I got out, I talked to Jack about it. He said, oh, man, yeah, he should have. And I thought about, oh, yeah, he screwed up royal. He was out.
Waived his rights.
Yeah, he had attorneys.
Is he still in?
I don't know. He left, and didn't follow after that. But if you're still there 6 months after the Supreme Court vacated your case, you're probably still there. Maybe not. But I'm going to tell you shouldn't have been there, 6 days after the case is vacated, should you? But he didn't accept it for settlement and closure. But his attorneys, they had it handled. They got him that far. So he kept his faith in the attorneys. So you see so much strange stuff out there, but all I could see for this game of rules is it's got to be contracts. And it comes off of hundreds and hundreds of cases and deals and things I've seen. Now, is seeing believing? Dan the man?
Is seeing believing?
Yeah.
My initial reaction is to say
Initial reaction, good. But in reality, is it? We know that Siegfried and Roy in Las Vegas make lions and tigers disappear. That's a fact. I've been to the show many times. I'll tell you, they make them disappear. But we know that's an illusion. Seeing is not believing, but it's just another thing we've been told. Theory, the systematic statement of principles involved. Now that has validity. Hypothesis doesn't, but theory does. Well, that's just a theory. Yeah, really? See what we've been taught? You go out and you buy life insurance. Is that life insurance or death insurance? Is it health insurance or sickness insurance? Everything's backwards. That's okay. They tell John Stewart he didn't have to come to the hearing the next morning. He didn't. They just arrested him and threw him in jail so he couldn't fight and win. That's what that was all about. Wow. Because he wouldn't have been out to do it. And I tell him, hey, you better not go back to jail. Because I'm not going to go get all that stuff and do it for you. You're going to have to do it.
You talked about earlier about families, because I know you have kids as well. So I guess my concern is if, we're into this and we're kind of worried, what do we do? How would we protect our family?
Well, that's a good point. Should you enter into this stuff, right? Because they might come and get your kids thinking you're like a traitor or something, right? It's because you don't understand. That's the only reason they're going to come. Whose kids are they right now as U.S. citizens? I don't know about Canada, but U.S. citizens. Child Protective Services take the kids away from the families all the time, don't they? What do we have this thing down in Texas with the church group? They 400 kids, not Waco, but they took 400 kids.
Yeah, somewhere in
Some guy living in, this church group and all this stuff down in Texas. They took like 400 kids away from the families there. Yeah, that kind of thing. Now, why could they do that? Because nobody put in a claim for the children. They're all born on the compound. They had church records. They all went out and got attorneys and stuff. The only thing that's going to save you and your kids is they're your kids, not the state's kids. So when the state comes around and says, "Excuse me, Jane," yes? "Well, we've got an order here for your children. We need to take them away. Because we think your hair's too long." Yeah, I'm happy to let you do that upon proof of claim, blah, blah, blah. Or who are you or whatever else. But the only thing that's going to, in my opinion, save your family is that you are involved as the government does label you as a sovereign, as not a debtor, as a creditor. A debtor is one who is owed something, right? Creditors. Well, this government owes me to protect and do and stuff. We established it. You all think if you're paying like you owe them, Social Security and the rest of that, you're the one with a problem. In America, being a U.S. citizen, I think it's a bad situation. Today, you're only wearing 20 pounds of chains, but don't worry, another decade, they'll be 30 pounds. Because the decade, 2-3 decades ago, there was only like 5 pounds of chains. We go back far enough, there wasn't any chains from government in that aspect. It wasn't even until, the 30s or right around Prohibition, 1921 Prohibition, that the feds got their foot in every state. But it was necessary the feds get their foot in every state. The states were dealing with people like Al Capone that were running the state and running it like their own little fiefdom. Killing people, doing what they wanted. Can't have that. And the states aren't going to do it, then the feds need to come in and do it, don't they? And they have, and they do. What do you think keeps a lot of these, reins in a lot of these political guys on the state level? Get federally indicted and charged.
It's interesting. I don't know what some of these questions come from, but for me, with herd animals, if you're part of the herd, you feel safety, right? Like you don't feel, you don't think about my family or something. So when you're not part of the herd and you're trying to become more awake, more aware, and actually open your eyes, then you experience more
This
fear.
is where you're going to have to get a testimony yourself that you understand God and His servants, the government, and this America and Canada, that there's a republic and there's a democracy in those countries. And when you're in the republic, you're safe. But when you're in the democracy, you're not safe at all. We've got a little article right there. Anarchy, that's all. Now, picture, do you think the judges want you to win this stuff? Do you think the judges like it when you come into their courtroom and talk and spew this stuff? Huh?
If you're respectful, they might.
Hold on. I don't know. Let's try and think logically. Democracy's result is anarchy. What's anarchy? No government, right? In this context. Chaos, no government, right?
Mob rule.
Nobody's safe. Do you think the judges want anarchy? Don't you think they love their children, their neighbors, their friends? There might be an aberrant judge or two that's a misanthrope, hates everybody. But that would be an exception, not the rule. And you're not going to get a stay of judge when things go to hell anyway. There's going to be nothing left to judge. It's going to be mob rule, people shooting. You're not going to be able to go out and eat at a restaurant and all that, you're going to have 10 bodyguards because they're going to be trying to kill the judges, right? Anybody, because that's what mobs and crazy people do. In a republic, justice, contentment, and progress. You think he's not a just judge? I got news for you, he is. So, now that we can think logically, what would make you think a judge would be offended at what you're doing? Only because it seems like maybe. But in reality, do you have the one with Yane?
Yep.
I think it's right here. No.
I think I gave it to you.
You gave it to me, but you may have put it back.
I did.
I had a gal named Yane. She's married to a guy who did a bunch of this stuff in court. And I have to pick up from her is her some transcripts and a video she picked up for me of her husband doing this. And this is what she said to me. When her husband would go into court, now he's on his 4th time doing this. He's staring at 10.5 to 25 years state charge in Arizona. He kept going in, and every time he'd come in, he'd say, "For the record and on the record, I want the court to know that I come in peace. All things stated are stated without prejudice. All rights are reserved, restored, and never wavered." And that's why he'd come in. And then whenever the judge got hostile, he'd repeat that. And he always used to come in with his wife and 2 other notaries. And they were always dressed in black, and he'd dress in white. You know, very theatrical, but nonetheless effective. And whenever the judge would say something, he said, he accepts for value, honor, and consideration according to House Joint Resolution 192, Public Policy 7310, Title 31, Section 5118. I accept for value the court proceedings for full settlement and closure of case number so-and-so, exempt from levy and lien. She said, like he repeated like 30 times. Wow. And they'd say, scratch, scratch, you know, I mean, just, she's telling me all this stuff going on, and they're going to get me the transcripts that she's got them. I haven't picked them up. And whenever an attorney comes, he said, "Can you please state your name and bar number for the record?" And the attorney would answer it. And then he'd say, "Let the record reflect that I accept for value, for full assessment of the charges, Jason Johannes, bar number so-and-so, for full assessment of the charges." What's your bar number? "I'm accepting that for full assessment of the charges. Let the record show that." Ah! And the attorney would go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, recess." Kind of interesting. And the judge and prosecutor said they ended up disqualifying themselves from the case. Got transferred to another judge. Then they got a new indictment stating a true bill, and he accepted that for value and set off, and put into the record, sent to Puerto Rico, and they did all sorts of weird stuff. Eventually, they filed when he was doing all this, he filed a federal lawsuit against these state judges and prosecutors, and they then wanted to settle with him. And I got a copy of the suit. So, and they wanted to settle with him, and instead of 10.5 years, they agreed to 6 months. And they said, make an offer, and they went back and forth and telling me it all. But the long and the short, they knew that this was the judge's last case. The judge was retiring after this. And this was her general words, according to Yane. Just wonderful words. Brandon said they were beautiful words, Jack, everybody. Judge says something like this. You did a really good job. You did an excellent job representing yourself. I want to commend you on the way you behaved yourself. You and your wife stuck to your guns, and you did it with honor. So I'm going to accept the 6 months contract you signed. And may the Most High, he used to refer to God as the Most High, and may the Most High continue to bless you and your family. And this was a phenomenal way for me to retire. Now, either she made all of this up, including my buddy who got thrown in jail, Seehausen, when he did the supervised release with the judge after 7 hearings. The judge just said, we ought to get together sometime. He actually went back and had a Christmas dinner with him, and the judge took him to the Union Club. And the judge affirmed to him that he did everything, all the things that he did right, he told him he did right. He wouldn't tell him anything new or give him any disclosure about things not. But he told him, you asking questions all the time was good. He told him all the things that he did good that was good. And he said, you did a lot of things wrong too, but you did a lot of things good. Very interesting. So, do we have some circumstantial evidence or hearsay from people that tell us that, in fact, using logic about democracies and republic and using some of this hearsay from their lips to my ears, people that were actually there, my buddy one in Chicago, and two, this gal that came to my place to discuss her husband, her, and then has the rest of the stuff for me and gave me the court case and the rest, the indictment that they filed, the rest of that. Can I have some basis to believe? I have a strong basis to believe, and coupled with that, and using good sense, that these judges would love to see you succeed. They want you to succeed. They want you to and I to wake up. Because none of us are going to have anything if we don't. They're smart guys. They're not stupid. They're smart guys and gals. They're not stupid. They understand law, contracts. They do it all the time. It's very, very exciting to see that, in fact, they're for you. I don't care if you think he's angry at you or what's that. No, he isn't. He really isn't. It's just a game. They're testing you. He wants you to succeed as much as you want to succeed. They say all sorts of strange things all the time. Just before John's, when we were in there, why would the judge tell us what's sitting out in the audience? He knew. He goes, I'm just a facilitator. He didn't say it for that dude. He said it for us. I'm just a facilitator. He got some of that stuff we did. It was great to watch. Did you get this, prosecutor? Did you get this, man? Yes. I've got originals here. I got to let it in. Why would he need to tell us that? They always giving us hints and telling us. We have to listen. And based on Yanne's comments, based on Seehausen's comments, and based on that, and my overall, if they're God's servants, this is God's. God would see to it there was a way for all of us in this, the promised land of milk and honey. It all makes good sense to me. Am I wrong? The problem is I keep winning everything. And so it may be a weird way to look at it, but so far it just makes absolute sense to me. And I don't know any other way to view it. If God is the creator, he would have provided a way. We are in the promised land, all of us in America, whether it be North America or what have you. We got it made. These servants, these governments are beautiful. These aren't communist governments. Was World War I necessary and World War II? Look what it did. Remember, the sun never sat on the English Empire. They controlled like 3/4 of the planet at one time. Do you know that? That's big. Then they don't anymore. Oh, we're all still subservient to the Queen. What are you talking about? Everybody said, you don't remember when Japan was buying all that. Well, they're going to take all the buildings and everything in America. They're going to own it. I said they're just going to be turned into taxpayers. That's all they're going to be. Paying property tax and vacant buildings and maintenance on them and every other thing. The system's perfect.
Yeah, what does that mean when they say, oh, China owns a certain amount of the U.S. or Japan or whatever?
What do they own? They own a bunch of... All they have is like, a few, maybe a trillion or two of the debt. Big deal. From a bankrupt entity. Right? Like Traficant said, this is the largest Chapter 11 in the history of mankind, or bankruptcy in the history of mankind. Why would China try and do anything with it? They need someone to buy their stuff and keep their people working. You think they don't got problems? You think this country don't have problems? Try herding 307 million cats. That's what you're dealing with here. It's a great deal. Man, it is truly a perfect system, whole and complete. There's something for all of us. For those that want slavery, it's there. These judges are for you. I'm telling you from my heart, they are good people. They're just contract experts. This government is good. This IRS is good. All these people that whine and revile, they violate James Allen stuff, they violate God's word, all of it. I'm guilty as anybody else of whining and reviling of things and this and that in the past too. I like to be a better person. But isn't it nice to know that this government is going to mark you as a sovereign? They're not going to come after you and your kids. Why would they? They want you to succeed. They're not going to tolerate lukewarm, double-minded people. God tells you, don't be lukewarm, man. Hey, be a sinner and get in the world, or get over here with me. Make your choice whom you're going to serve. You going to serve God or not? You got faith? I'm telling you, when you start practicing this contract law stuff, it can't do anything to you. You do it all to yourself. It's like the most refreshing, most beautiful thing. So as soon as you can get a good grasp on it, and we've got to try and get you there, it's really not very complicated. It seems like it because it's new things to you. Oh, what do you call that first step? What do you call it? Ease up. It'll be okay. Get a few samples and you practice a little. Pretty soon you go, God, I can call it we call some of them constructive notice private international remedy demand. Some of them are notice private international remedy demand. You know, not a big deal. Hell, it could just say first notice on it, second notice, third notice. It doesn't got to say notice of fault, opportunity cure. It can say second notice. Well, it don't get any plainer than that.
Hey, you better.
Hey, you. Hello, how are you? And they're not complicated. Where is Terry's? Yeah, this is like so nice. Just leave it in there. Okay.
Wait.
You know, all it is going to your brother on the first step. You heard my sister say, hey, you billed me $49 on my bill this month. You did it again that month. Why don't you knock it up? You can give me my money back. And here's one we did for another guy named Terry.
That page and this one after. And then on
Here's
the
the
back,
notice private in
the back side of it.
On or about January 2000, I was enticed by yourself to invest funds in excess of $200,000 in various business ventures, owned, controlled, and/or controlled indirectly by you. The investments you stated varied from investments in companies called this. See attached exhibits. Said money investments were directed to various accounts for various purposes, all purported to raise money to help with the boat company, Meadowcraft Marine, pay off the mortgage on my home in the approximate amount of $1 million. Listed below are some of the amounts and dates said funds were invested or directed by you. Then there's a whole page on those. And then there was a third page that said something, just another short paragraph. Blah, 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 you didn't do it. Therefore, it seems to me you committed fraud. So either give me my money back or it is agreed you committed fraud and you owe me $622,000, triple amount. Of course, they ignored it each time. Of course, on the last one of them, they refused it. He said, now what do we do? It was on the last step onto one of the parties.
You mean refused to receive the mail?
Yeah, they knew it was come another certified mail or they wouldn't go pick it up. He said, now what do we do? I said, it's beautiful. What's refusal?
It's one of the doors.
Acceptance.
It's agreement. Yeah. Acceptance. That's what they do to. That's what they do to uncivil people.
Put that on your affidavit or something?
Don't have to. It's the law.
I was talking to Juanita about mailing presentments to people, and with certified mailing, there's a checkbox where you can say, I'd like the party or their authorized agent only to pick it up, not someone else. And
well, it's actually you can check the box. It's just directly that one person. So.
Oh, is that what it says?
Yeah, I don't think I have one, but I might have a card with me. But anyway, go on.
But there was some concern. Well, we don't want to check that because they might refuse it. But I was thinking, refusing.
I don't want to check it because they might be out or something and they won't get it. So because notice to the agent's notice to the principal.
Yeah,
if it got delivered there, that's why I just leave it blank. I don't want to have any specific one person pick it up.
I thought it said authorized agent or principal.
Nah. Somebody have a green mail card for certified mailers with them by any chance?
I don't have a green card.
Or just a return card?
I don't have a return card. I just have.
Or a copy of a return card?
No, I only have the original certificate.
Just a little receipt.
Yeah.
No, on the green card, the return card.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, please rest assured, the government loves it when you stand up. Now, they may not like a in-your-face Robert Menard approach, which is not very civil. I like his message, though. I like the guy. He's saying the right things. But I think we can do it with humbleness and love and some honor. Rest assured, you go to court, you can say the right things, and if you don't do it in honor, you might not be getting your remedy. Because you have to merit the reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said your paperwork don't have to be exact. Don't even have to be correct. I said it was correct. Somebody saying it isn't? Kind of interesting.
And you have to play the game with sportsmanlike conduct.
Yes. Do you merit a reward? Have by conduct a claim to. The judge will decide whether your conduct warrants your fulfilling your claim. You have to go low to get high. You have to be humble. Don't you love? God told you, love your brother and I'll give you everything, including remedy for all your sins. It's so perfect. A government will not take your kids. All they got's a birth certificate. Who's it identify? Well, they took my baby's footprint, or that's my footprint. It's not your footprint. You don't have a footprint, do you? You're a spirit. How could you have a footprint? Now, it might be a footprint of this foot when it was a lot smaller. Might not have been. Prove it. You say it is, I say it ain't. Can you prove it? Yes.
Can they not just seize the vessel, though? Still?
You know, it's really interesting. Can they seize the vessel? That's when I first got out in May of 2007, when I screwed up and offended them. The marshal. Now, when I'd gone to the halfway house, I gave a picture and all of that kind of stuff because I wasn't real tuned up on that, the seriousness of it. But I wasn't given a bunch of grief about it. So I gave a picture. And some 60 days later, so 90 days later, I'm in an altercation with him. Come to my office, the marshals just grabbed the vessel. They didn't identify themselves, nothing, wouldn't identify, just grabbed the vessel. Took me down to Arpaio's jail. And that's where the games began. I had a chance, I screwed it up by shaking that guy's hand and doing one other mistake. Otherwise, I felt they would have had to let me go. I didn't keep from violating rights and everything else, taking you down there. So they made an honest mistake and grabbed the wrong vessel. They had a picture of it. They could say that. What are you going to do? Come on, man. I was out of line. I ignored the probation's letter and didn't attend the meeting when I said it would. Call back and say, if you want to talk to me, put it in writing. I already tried in writing. Of course, the halfway house called and said, come on down, we want to see you. I went down. They said, well, we think we're going to put you back in prison. And I verbally sparred with them. They couldn't do anything. And I walked out and left. And they called over to the office where I was at, picked up, and they said the guy got on the phone. I beat him again. Then the head security guard called. You got 24 hours to be back here. Click. She wouldn't talk to me. And so the next day, just before 24 hours was up, 2 marshals just came, marched in, grabbed me, and took me away. Wouldn't say anything. Wouldn't talk. Nothing. And it was a great experience because I learned so much when I went to the jail and our piles and watching them do, and those guys and shaking hands. It was just too good. All my experiences seemed to be just so for my good. Kind of like Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God. Right? So, what would you pay for all those experiences? The average guy can't deal with it. Oh, God, jail again? Yeah, let's see what you got. I don't want to be there, believe it. But, it just seemed like so much good come from it every time. That's why I got the attitude I have of it. And there were times like, when is it over? It's never over. It was a classic one getting out of MCC San Diego. Remember that I defeated the 2 cases of supervised release, but I got a couple of contempt charges I'm doing 10 months over. So while I'm in there, the whole 10 months they're haranguing me for a picture and fingerprints. And I won't give it to them. And about 8 days before I left, the head unit guy calls me in. And he says, you have to give a picture. And you have to do supervised release. And you have to give pay some money on this $4.8 million. Just pay $5, anything. And I had $600 in my commissary account that friends had put on my books, but I couldn't spend it because I was on restriction. So he says, just pay $2, $5, anything. I said, why would I want to do that? He says, I have a court order. What are you going to say to that? I says, well, let me see it. Says he's got a court order. Let's see it. So he goes rummages through all the stuff. This is what they call a computation data sheet made up by the unit team. It says how much time you got left, supervised release, or all sorts of things. I know what it is. Is this a court order?
If you agree it is.
There's a real important concept. Huge. In common parlance, is synonymous with going to trial. In common parlance, going to court is synonymous with going to trial. This is huge. The IRS sends you letters, and after about 3 letters and you've ignored them, you have your bank account levied, or your home has a notice of lien on it and you lose it eventually, right? Do you all agree with that? That's what happens in America. You were in court with the IRS. But in common parlance, common talk, people think when you're in court means going down where you're actually in trial, attesting the public side, you see? Does that make sense to each of you? When you're doing your administrative proceeding with somebody, you're really in court. So when the Chase Bank or a Visa card group sends you a bill and you send it back and they send you haven't paid it and you conditionally accept and they send something else and you send back again, there's your court record. When you eventually get called into a public court, let's call it, a trial area where there's a black robe judge or something, that's going to be a trial. And if you got your record and it goes in there, what can be put into an appellate court? Nothing but what was in the lower court, right? The record in the lower court's all that can be put into an appellate court. You can't introduce new evidence and stuff. So when an IRS has sent you a bunch of things non-file, you could be subject to a criminal prosecution for willful failure to file. You ignore those letters and then you get an indictment. Anything you say subsequently, they've got a private record that says you're guilty. You willfully failed to file, don't they? You're toast. Because that when you go to that court, that's your first appellate court. That's your first appeals court. And the only thing that can be seen in there is their record in the lower court, your administrative record. It's kind of a hard, but it's really, really important you know that.
And that's like the same thing if you get pulled over for speeding. That's your trial. When you go to traffic court later, that's an appeal.
That's all it is. If you let too much time, you don't settle that ticket. That was an offer, wasn't it? You got to set it off, settle it, and close it. Then you come in and you say, hasn't the matter been settled and closed?
But on the appeal, if you let go of if you waive your previous judgment in your favor, then
they're going to get you to try and move that contract. That's a fact. Because the only people that are really going to get this and understanding this is people that really want to be in harmony with their brother. probably be a few people who want to do it to get over. But gal, if you're bright enough to learn this, you're bright enough to say, I don't have to try and get over. This is like manna from heaven. This is the best. I get to be in harmony with a 900-pound gorilla. I don't want to be at war with this government. I'm outgunned, outclassed, outthought, outmanned, out everything. It was stupid on my forehead? I don't think so.
Amen, peace.
And if you think they're not servants of God, I got news for you. Are they thinking they're that? Nah. But God has a very good way of getting everything done He wants done. Therefore, if what I'm telling you is right, then you could be happy that there's remedy. They're going to love you. They're not going to take your kids. They can't if they wanted to. They're yours. But I'm not in there answering questions. I'm going to make a claim. And you'll know how to make a claim. A complaint is not a claim. Think about what the girl in the divorce with our friend in the divorce deal. She wanted an increase in the money that she was getting monthly. So she put in a complaint with the court. I'm not getting enough. Give me some more. And what did that guy do? Instead of saying, hey, I conditionally accept your offer to hear it again upon proof of claim, that the record attached herewith, which is accepted as a binding contract, hasn't already settled that matter. And then when you come in, well, what's the record and pleading say, Judge? Well, look, we've got to talk about, and where's your attorney? Well, as intervener, what do I need an attorney for? Is this matter not been settled and closed? Are we ready to submit this matter under law and issue an order to that effect? He's just the judge. He seems like he's judge, jury, and executioner. That's when you're in an equity court. You're going to see a lot of legal writings, inequity, or at law, inequity, in law, inequity. Two different worlds. I need to be in law. In, within, surrounded by. If I told you your friends are at the lake, or I tell you your friends are in the lake, two big different statements, huh? If I tell you your kids are in the pool or at the pool, at means near or in the presence of. So an attorney at law, he's near or in the presence of a contract. Wow. He's not an attorney in law. They're never referred to that. Why is an attorney at law? An equity court. A chancery court. Equity. A system of rules and doctrines as in the United States, supplementing common and statute law and superseding such law whenever it proves inadequate for just settlement. Remember that gal, Themis? She's holding that scale up there. She can only weigh the claims. Goes to that poem I repeat in a lot of these things about law. Remember, replace the word contract. Once law was sitting on the bench, and mercy knelt a-weeping. Clear out, he cried, disordered wench, nor come before me creeping. Upon your knees if you appear, 'tis clear you have no standing here. Then justice came. His honor cried, your status. Devil sees you. Amicus curiae, she replied, friend of court, so please you. Begone, he shouted, there's the door. I never saw your face before. When contract sits on the bench, you can forget mercy, justice, and all that. That's a poem from 1840. Gaskalaska Jape, SC. Whew. When you have a contract, ladies and gentlemen, you're a bad mojo. You got it's your court. Can you hold it? A republic, if you can keep it. Ooh, yeah. Surf's up, party's on, your set's in. Can you rise up to the occasion? It's going to be fun. And remember, that judge is rooting for you. He really is. Think about it. All day long, nothing but debtors and slaves come into these guys. Why do you think they used to sleep on the bench? Why not? The decision's mine to do when they get done here. I'm going to sleep. I'm tired. I just got to hear this droning some more. More whining. She don't pay. The kids this. Mom that. The yeah. Whine. I didn't bring enough cheese for this day. You know? You think that judge doesn't perk up when he's got a little fun? A little change in pace? It's the same old debtor slave bringing us right down to anarchy. I got me another one of those sovereigns coming on Thursday. Let me tell you something. The Cincinnati boys were doing real good in their hour and a half Ferretti hearing. The courtroom was packed with suits. They had them all there. IRS agents and attorneys packed. Came for the show. And he said, Gordon, the judge was so nice. He said he lulled you right into smoothness and suckered you. Then he said, he got us. Judge was good.
And afterwards, there's money changing hands in the back.
You think that judge didn't invite all those people there? You think these prosecutors, these attorneys, these Irish haven't seen this stuff? They've been there. They know what you're doing. You don't have to explain it. That's fighting. What is this stuff you're talking about? Do I have the capacity to inform you and the public without abandoning my position in the private? Or are you suggesting I can explain something to you, Judge, without giving up my private claim? You're not going to tell him anything. He knows exactly what you're doing. The show must go on. Shakespeare told it to you. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their entrances and exits. Each man has his part to play.
Or
Come on. Do you want to come out and play? Yes.
who educates these judges? Like how do?
I'm
how do they go
aware.
from a lawyer-
I'm aware of 2 judges' school. One in the Scottsdale, Arizona. One in Reno.
Okay.
Plus, they probably get tested on the way to.
I thought they were appointed. Are they not appointed?
What's that got to do with? How do they learn it? You said. I thought.
Oh yes, you're right. So they become lawyers first.
Probably.
Yeah, and then they just go to training center or school to become a
Well, they
judge.
learn enough about what the real game is, and they rise up and they see how their careers go, and somebody appoints them.
Yeah,
These
so I was
guys
thinking-
understand commercial law. This one's real good. Just like chess players.
Well,
I don't
that's
doubt
the
they're
best.
ranked. You know, chess players are ranked. You know, I'm a 21, a 18, a 17. They got them ranked. I wouldn't doubt those judges. They can, human nature's nothing. They got people. They know people. They've been working with billions of people over the millennia. They understand human nature like you can't believe. And these judges, if they're a good judge, do they understand commercial law? I don't believe that all judges, meaning a lot of the magistrates and things, might be as versed in it, but they're getting versed. But those federal judges, count on it. They absolutely understand it. And I don't doubt every one of those state judges do too. You're not going to be a judge if you can't judge. What are we judging? This game is contracts. Is jurisdiction. There isn't. What else could it be? If I'm not Gordon when they invite me in, I can't say I'm not him. I can't deny. I got to be civil. Have I not been out sailing the Sea of Commerce with his license and credit cards and utility bills and everything else? I've got a duty. That goes to obligation. I love that word, obligation. Remember the old Westerners used to say, much obliged?
Yeah.
What did that mean?
Yeah.
Kind of everybody thought it meant kind of like thank you, right? Much
Yeah.
obliged. Come over and help you herd the cattle, much obliged? Hell no. Obliged, obligation. I love this word. Obligation. The best definition I've heard that I like is that which constitutes, and this is really good, that which constitutes a legal or moral duty and which renders a person liable to coercion or punishment for neglecting it. That which constitutes a legal or moral duty and which renders a person liable to coercion or punishment for neglecting it. Westerner, I come over and herd your cattle, and the guy say, much obliged, I'm obligated. That's right. When it's time to herd my cattle, you better have your butt over here. That's right. But obligation. So, what happens when you accept an attorney or a favor? Don't you become obligated? And therefore, that's a legal or moral duty, and it renders you liable to coercion and punishment for neglecting it. That's how they can throw you in for taking something and put you under their deal. You had either a legal or a moral duty to pay for what you took. That's law. That's only right. Yes.
When you accept an attorney, there's an implied contract there, and you're receiving benefits. But if
Implied, that's an express contract, baby.
Okay.
But yes, you got a contract.
But I mean, you're waiving your rights in a sense because
well,
you're doing that.
when you take an attorney, yes.
But like if I give somebody a birthday present, that's not an I don't think of that as creating an obligation.
It really doesn't, not in that sense of the word. You're right. I do you a favor, you're not obligated to me. And isn't it interesting that
right.
the word thank you and then you're welcome. Webster's has a wonderful definition of you're welcome, which is a standard reply for someone saying thank you, which means you're under no obligation for the favor given. God, it's so cool. Welcome means, yeah. In that context, let me get it to you here. Give you the exact definition. You're under no obligation for the favor given. Let's see how they word it here. You're welcome. You're under no obligation for the favor given. The conventional response to an expression of thanks.
Wow.
Some of my people that have learned that, they say, hey, thanks. And I don't say a word, and they go, I'm obligated. I said, yeah. Yeah, we tease about it. I ain't joking either.
Yeah.
That's right. If I don't say you're welcome, I just put you under obligation. You just don't know that. But my friends, we teach a few things too. It's cute to learn to speak a little bit. Kind of fun to learn words and language. It's not going to be too hard for all of you to do this. It really isn't. It seems a little bit Greek at first.
Everything does.
Everything does, but this isn't like a whole lot more difficult. This isn't like you got to learn scads of stuff in law. You really don't. 4 doors. Don't accept anything free. Don't become obligated. The judges really want you to... Once you get all these little, 5, 10, 15, 20 of these basic principles in your mind, they're not hard, none of them sounded weird, you really can do it. You'll be able to, just like my sister. That is not a legalese sounding, you owe me $49, knock it off, and the dude ain't worked here for years. It leads me to believe you're committing fraud. That's why with, what did we say on yours? Further attempts to collect on account already agreed as set off, settled, and closed leads me to believe you may be committing fraud. Didn't say they were.
What's the purpose of saying that? Is that
Well, I happen to
suggesting a crime?
may be committing fraud, but why don't we look up the word may in Black's Law Dictionary? Woo!
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what you think may means and what it means in law, we're talking a couple of different things.
I think I understand.
Nasty.
May is synonymous with me.
May. An earlier verb qualifying the meaning of another verb by expressing ability, competency. That's kind of what we think may means. Let's go to some other terms of it, though. Regardless of the instrument, however, whether constitution, statute, deed, contract, or whatever, courts not infrequently instrue may as shall or must, to the end that justice may not be the slave of grammar. However, as a general rule, the word may will not be treated as a word of command unless there is something in context or subject matter of act to indicate that it was used in such sense. In construction of statutes and presumably also in construction of federal rules, word may as opposed to shall is indicative of discretion. However, I use it as shall. Shall incur a penalty. So you can't be accusing your brother. You got to be a little. Leads me to believe you may be committing fraud. Oof.
Is fraud a term that refers to something that's specifically a crime? Is that
Remember we said it was?
Deception.
To trick somebody out of something's personal property or rights or something. By deception.
But in this context, you're using it to suggest that a crime may have been committed?
Yeah, I paid you and you're continuing to try and collect on a debt that's already been paid. You know it and I know it.
So not only am I have a claim against the person, but there could be the 900-pound gorilla, government, if a crime has been committed. If they don't rebut that presumption or something.
If they don't rebut that comment, it stands. Now the gorilla is on their side. Remember, public policy. So if I win this, I'm not going to run on screaming at the treetops. I don't want everybody doing this. Because all they want to do is just do it to do it. They're not trying to get in harmony with their brother. Do you think if this is successful, she wants to run out and get credit cards, run them up, and blow them off this way? I don't think she intends to do that at all. There's some people who want to do that with their credit cards. Go get another one. Clean my credit up. Go get another card. I'll just do it again. That's an admirable goal. That's not like you're really being in honor. Where's your heart?